This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. OPEC and its allies are discussing deepening oil production cuts, possibly by as much as 1 million barrels per day. Three sources told Reuters on Friday as oil prices fell towards $70 per barrel and market analysts spoke of a new supply glut. OPEC Plus pumps around 40% of the world's crude, meaning its policy decisions can have a major impact on oil prices. Three OPEC Plus sources said cuts were being discussed among options for Sunday, when OPEC Plus ministers gather at 2 p.m. in Vienna, 1200 GMT. Before then, OPEC ministers will meet at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
Oil prices rose over 2% on Friday after the U.S. Congress passed a debt ceiling deal that averted a government default in the world's biggest oil consumer, and jobs data fueled hopes for a possible pause in Federal Reserve interest rate hikes. The focus is now turning to a meeting of OPEC and its allies this weekend. Brent futures rose $1.85, or 2.5%, to settle at $76.13 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude rose $1.64, or 2.3%, to settle at $71.74. The closes were the highest since May 26 for WTI and May 29 for Brent. For the week, both contracts were down about 1% in their first weekly losses in 3 weeks.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Russia's seaborne diesel and gasoil exports were 21% lower in May from a month earlier at about 3.1 million tons as seasonal refinery maintenance cut supply and domestic demand rose, data from traders and Refinitiv Icon showed. Idle primary oil refining capacity for May has been revised up by 500,000 tons from the previous plan to 5.0 million tons as several refineries extended maintenance. Since the full EU embargo on Russian oil products took effect on February 5, traders have diverted diesel exports from Russian ports to countries in Africa, Asia and the Middle East. Previously, Europe was the main buyer.
U.S. manufacturing and freight activity has declined for 7 months running, reflected in falling consumption of diesel and other distillate fuel oils as well as industrial electricity sales. Manufacturers reported another widespread downturn in May, according to the monthly Purchasing Managers Survey published by the Institute for Supply Management, ISM. The ISM Manufacturing Index slipped to 46.9, 14th percentile for all months since 1980, and has been continuously below the 50-point threshold dividing expansion from contraction since November.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
India's finished steel purchases from China touched a 5-year high in April, and the country's overall imports of the alloy reached a 4-year high, according to provisional government data reviewed by Reuters. In April, China emerged as the second biggest steel exporter to India by shipping out 0.1 million tons, up 79% year-on-year. Imports from China accounted for nearly a quarter of India's overall finished steel imports in April. India imported 0.5 million tons of finished steel in April, the highest since 2019, up 38.2% from a year earlier, the data showed.
China's Securities Regulatory Commission has approved the registration of alumina futures on the Shanghai Futures Exchange, SHFE, it said on Friday. The decision opens the door for the exchange to launch the world's first alumina contract with physical delivery. The listing of alumina futures will enhance the competitiveness for China's alumina industry and its price influence and also improve companies' risk management abilities, the SHFE said in a notice. It did not specify when the contract will start trading. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. Ukraine's combined spring and winter grain crops are still expected to total 44.5 million tons this year despite a reduced sowing area, the country's agriculture minister said on Friday. Ukraine harvested 53 million tons of grain in 2022. Mykola Solsky told Reuters the harvest could include 18 million tons of winter grains and about 26.5 million tons of spring crops. Winter wheat dominates Ukraine's winter harvest output, while corn accounts for the bulk of the spring grain harvest.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.